For over a decade, residents of the remote Channel Island of Jersey feared a masked intruder breaking into their homes. There was no alarm systems at the time and hardly any policemen at hand. Home telephones were easily destroyed by a single cut of a cord. It was as such that over a dozen women and children would meet the fate of faceless shape, one to become known as the Beast of Jersey. Edward Paisnel was born in 1925, though the exact date and location of his birth are unclear. He was barely a teenager when the United Kingdom declared war on Germany in 1939, and was at one point briefly imprisoned for stealing food to give to starving families. Paisnel's crimes began in 1957, long before he garnered his infamous moniker or donned the Beast of Jersey mask. With a scarf over his face, the 32-year-old approached a young woman waiting for a bus in the Monte Alab district and tied a rope around her neck. He forced her to a nearby field, raped her, then ran. Targeting bus stops and using isolated fields would become his MO, and he would continue these attacks until the next year, when the Beast would don his rubber mask and begin invading homes, preying on something far weaker than young women: children. It was Valentine's Day, 1960, when a 12-year-old boy woke to find a man in his bedroom. The intruder used a rope to force him outside and then took him to a field, something he would do the following month to an unsuspecting woman who asked for a ride. He targeted a 43-year-old woman's cottage next. She was awoken by a noise and tried calling the police, but Paisnel had cut the phone lines. Though he violently confronted her, she was able to escape and find help. However, when she returned, Paisnel had made his escape, but not before assaulting the woman's 14-year-old daughter. Paisnel began exclusively targeting children at this point, invading a 14-year-old's bedroom in April. She awoke to find him watching her from the shadows, but screamed so loud that he fled. An 8-year-old boy in July, meanwhile, was taken from his room and assaulted in a field, only for Paisnel himself to walk the boy home when he was finished. After far too long, police would begin questioning all residents with criminal records, with 13 of them, including Paisnel, refusing to provide fingerprints. Police believed a fisherman named Alphonse Le Gasloy was their man, although the only evidence they had was that he was a known eccentric. With Le Gasloy's image plastered across the newspapers, vigilantes soon burned down his house, forcing him off the island for good. But of course, this wasn't their man, and 3 more children would fall victim to the Beast in April. Meanwhile, Paisnel, the man responsible for the crimes, had been volunteering at community homes with children in his care. He and his wife even took children in, with Paisnel accused of abusing both the staff and orphans he was asked to assist. While none of it was ever reported, Scotland Yard finally began to help local police with a profile of their suspect. The perp was believed to be between 40 and 45 years old, 5 foot 6 inches tall, wearing either a mask or scarf. He smelled terrible and attacked between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., and he invaded homes through bedroom windows. But just as the investigations would begin, the Beast vanished, only to return in 1963. After 2 whole years of radio silence, the Beast of Jersey resurfaced. Between April and November of that year, he assaulted 4 girls and boys who he'd snatched from their bedrooms. While he yet again disappeared for another 2 years, a letter appeared at the Jersey police station in 1966, taunting police. It chastised investigators for being incompetent while proudly proclaiming that the author had committed a perfect crime. It also stated that this wasn't satisfying enough and that 2 more people would be victimized. That August, a 15-year-old girl was snatched from her home, assaulted, and physically attacked. The same thing would happen to a 14-year-old boy in August of 1970, and the boy told police something that would ultimately lead to his arrest. The attacker wore a mask. Fortunately, the Beast of Jersey mask would never be donned again, as 46-year-old Paisnel was pulled over for running a red light in a stolen car in the St. Helier district in July 10, 1971. And in the vehicle, police found a black wig, cords, tape, and the hideous rubber mask. Paisnel wore a raincoat with nails fitted on the cuffs and shoulders and had a flashlight on his person. He claimed he was on his way to an orgy, but he was taken into custody instead, and on November 29th, he would be sentenced to 30 years in prison. Disgustingly enough, though, as if the man didn't deserve life in prison, he was released early in 1991 for good behavior, and would die just 3 years later of a heart attack. And though this would see the end of the Beast's rampage, that didn't stop him from being linked to even more crimes long after his death. Thank you so much for watching, but I'm so sorry that I pronounced the names wrong. I don't know French.